Welcome, everyone, to Elevate with V. So excited to be here with you. This podcast was inspired by my own healing journey. I aspire to share amazing healers and coaches to help us each elevate on our journey so we can keep aligning with our soul's calling and gifts. I can't wait to introduce my guest today, Maurice. We connected through our beautiful friend, Jakara. He has been on her lives and they have done many collaborations together. I just so enjoy your energy, your authenticity. There's just something about you that's like very calming to me. So I'm really excited to learn more about your journey. So welcome, Maurice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. It's be fun today.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Maurice's official bio is he is a channel for healing and information. He specializes in evidential and trance mediumship, Reiki, shamanic journeying, and Akashic healing. He believes that ancient ideologies, spiritual practices, and technologies are both applicable and necessary in today's world, and bases his work around this idea. This is the reason his spiritual business, Ancient Made Modern, was created. Welcome again, Maurice.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful intro too.
I stumbled a little bit there. I was like, oh my goodness, these are words that I know, but yet I'm having trouble saying them. That's okay.
I should have considered smashing those like multi-syllable words together. I don't know. Sorry about that.
All good, all good. We got the information out there, and the great news is all of this information will be in the bio section. So if anyone needs all the intro, they will be able to find it. So I'm so excited to have you here, Maurice. As you know, this show highlights healing journeys and how we've each navigated our storms to get to our silver linings. So I would love to know and hear from you what event or events kind of had you step into your own healing journey?
Oh, okay. So I'd say that the biggest spur into my healing journey was when I went on a business trip to India. And on that business trip, I got extremely sick. No one told me. No one told me about like my digestion and the water and all that. No one told me. I don't know why they wouldn't have briefed me, but didn't. Got very sick. And long story short, I'm going to try to condense this. I uh, I was the sickest I've ever been in India, and I truly thought I was dying. I was calling on my family like, "Listen, I might not come back. I'm sorry." And but anyway, I made it. I was brought to the doctor, given some antibiotics, and I was fine for the rest of the trip. Got back. About 3 weeks after that, I fell completely ill. Um, it was as if I had like 10 different illnesses, and the doctors could not figure it out. I think I had something like 18 or something different types of tests between blood, urine, feces, like all that type of stuff. And all they could find was that my white blood cell count was very high, which meant I was fighting something, which means also that they couldn't treat me because they could not find a diagnosis. So I fell into despair. I don't even really remember how long this point was, but I realized like, oh, I think I'm just one of those people that catches a mysterious illness and dies. And I had really two choices. I hit like rock bottom. I was like, okay, so either I waste away over the course of maybe I was giving myself like 4 or 5 years. The way that I felt, it was as if my organs were beginning to shut down and everything. I couldn't digest foods. Um, I couldn't stand up for more than 30 minutes at a time. Stairs were out. I was wasting. I developed food allergies. Like nothing would, and then like the things I could eat would just kind of pass through the body undigested. And so it's either I waste away or figure it out. So I decided the latter, that I'm going to actually figure it out. And then I went on a 2.5 year journey, diving into how to heal myself. And this is how that happened. And now I'm here. So clearly it worked, but I ended up healing myself. This is prior to spiritual work. I mention this though because um, I know it was this process of being completely broken down and rebuilding myself that stripped away all the outer layers of me that allowed for the psychic senses to come in and open up. I had stopped taking all over-the-counter medicines, no food additives or like chemicals. I was very careful about what I ate, and I was prior a drinker. This is back in 2014. I stopped drinking, and I haven't drank even since then. I cut out all these things that were potential blockages to my spiritual gifts, which I again wasn't thinking about back then. I was just trying to save my life desperately. And but yeah, this would have been the moment that I think it was as if I was being burned alive, and the outer layers of me were completely removed, and that allowed for spirit to come in. And then shortly after, I started to notice that, like, oh, like I'm kind of perceiving, like, not only am I sensitive to foods, I'm sensitive. Period. Like I could. There's things happening. Then over the course of the years, so I guess fast forwarding to maybe 2016, I started to kind of lean into more like, okay, something's happening. So let me just try to like uh look into something. 2017. Oh, okay. Actually, no, 2016, my great grandmother, who was like my mother to me, she was like a very important figure. She passed away. So this is another thing that kind of helped the journey along. And I remember sitting at the dining room table, just sobbing, sobbing. And I was like calling out her name. And I started to feel this warmth in the center of my chest. And it was radiating past my body. And I had this knowing that this was her. So this was my first inkling to the truth that there is still communication with people who have passed away. You maybe hear about it in passing, but this was my first kind of like real tangible proof that this is the case. And from that point, she kind of led me on an internet rabbit hole. She kind of just like almost like guided my hands and just kind of started typing, and it led me to Reiki. And and okay, yes. And so that was that. Prior to that, I'd started to look into shamanism, because before she even passed away, I started to look into shamanism because people kept telling me like, "Oh, your story sounds like the beginnings of what would make a shaman." I heard this from like six different people's mouths until I was like, "Okay, let me like look into this. Is this like a thing?" So I started to like look up shamanism. This is how I got into Shamanic Journey, and I started just doing that for myself. Then my grandmother passes away. I fall into Reiki, and Reiki kind of gives me some like energetic framework, kind of helps me understand how energy moves through the body, and like it's just very basic kind of stencil of how things work. So that's how I got into Reiki. From there, especially after Reiki, all my other gifts began to just kind of explode and open up over the years. I just kept doing Reiki for myself, maybe for some friends and for some family, help my grandmother heal her cancer. Like I was like doing things just really, it was really a personal thing. I never intended to do it really for anybody else. And it wasn't until 2019 that I started to get to a point where I was like, I'm hitting a wall. Like I need to be practicing with other people. Are there other people that can do this? And I remember just typing in psychic development circles. Like I remember just typing that in 2019. And what came up was a mediumship circle. I didn't even know what mediumship was back then, but it came up under psychic. So I was like, oh, let me just do that. And I just picked one that fit my schedule. It was an online thing. I wanted to do one in person, but I can only fit the online one. And jumped in and was doing it right away. And I was like, oh, not only did I learn what mediumship was in that moment, I was able to do it right away. And I was like, okay, interesting. And then from there, I just kept doing it, all the classes. And then also in 2019, I formed Ancient Made Modern. I made Ancient Made Modern the Instagram. And I started just doing free readings for strangers. I did hundreds of them because I knew I hit a point like in my mediumship circles. I was like, I need to be doing this for more people that I don't know. I just feel compelled that I need to just do it. It doesn't matter. And yeah, then that's how all that happened. And I got to a point where both in my circles and in my personal work, my great grandfather, who passed away years and years ago, kept coming in through other people telling me I need to be doing this for work. And I was resistant to like even like charging and anything because I was so stuck on like, this is a personal thing. This is my thing. And eventually I lost the job that I had at the time. And I was like, well, there's this. I guess I really don't have a choice because job searches are not working out. So this is how I was kind of forced into spiritual work. And ever since then, yeah, I've been doing spiritual work. This is 2020, I believe, September 2020, where I finally relinquished and allowed myself to get into spiritual work professionally.
Wow, that's quite a story, Maurice. I'm just sort of like, wait, what happened to you when you went to India? I was like, okay, a little personal because, I'm from India. I'm like, wait a second, what happened to you when you were in India? So, did you say you were on a business trip or was it a personal trip?
It was a business trip. So I guess a little bit about this too. I was trying to condense it. So a little bit about this too. I worked for a company that was contracted to the Nigerian Immigration Service. And their job, well, they hosted the software platform that allowed people to make payments to pay for their documents to go to Nigeria, either renewing their passports or getting visas. And it was a tiny company at the time. I'm sure they probably grew. I haven't talked to them, but it was a tiny company at the time. So like processing thousands of people every day with like 4 employees, impossible. But we just did what we could. So I was technically customer service, and I was like answering emails, processing payments, helping troubleshoot, that kind of thing. And the owner one day asked me, I guess he saw my work, I guess. I'm giving myself credit, I guess. He saw my work and he was like, would you ever want to travel? And I'm like 22 or something like that. I'm like, yes, yes. Of course I want to travel, you know? And I didn't really think he was legit at first, but then he brought me to England the first time, and just to take, he took me there literally just to make me take minutes, just to take notes. And I think he just wanted to like, just show me that he had all these investors like pitching ideas to him from all over the world. And I was like, oh, this guy's a millionaire. Okay, like he's real deal. Okay, he put me up in this real nice hotel, like paid for everything. I was like, okay, I'm in. Let's travel. And so like he sent me on a couple other trips, like both around the country, but also out of the country. I went to England a couple times. China, I was there for a month. India was the last trip that I took. And so he sent me to India to start because one of the issues running in that we ran into in this company was not everyone in Nigeria or even going to Nigeria has access to like either a computer or a card. So like some people who were like, I guess I can't renew my passport because either that or they have to go to the embassies where they risk being kind of like bribed and like frauded. And so he sent me over to India to start a call center to like train them from the ground up, show them how to use the software, like to create like training modules. Meanwhile, I'm like 23. I've never done this before, and I'm getting paid like $13 an hour. But like, because I didn't know, I was just like a foolish kid. Like when he asked me how much I wanted to make, I was like 12.50, 50 cents higher than I was making at the restaurant I had been working at prior, you know. And he was like,
Oh
okay,
gosh.
taking just full advantage. And but yeah, like he sent me over there with no instruction, and like I just got it done. Like I look back, I don't know how I did it, but like when you're put in that position, you just do it. You just get it done. So I created training modules. I created like a whole talk track. I did everything. Like I printed out everything, all the individual steps, how to access the website and how to do everything. I helped them set up the office. I helped them get the furniture, all that stuff. And so anyway, this is where I went. I was sent over there to help start a call center because again there were like 4 employees, so we needed more people to answer the phones. And while I was there, I can tell you specifically what it was. Or what I think was anyway. Other like there's another psychic that told me something different. I think they're wrong. I had a specifically it was a salad. So like I went there and like I was in Noida, by the way. I was in Noida, and like I was in a like a it's like a kind of like a business park kind of thing, I guess. And it was like you walk in, it's kind of like kind of almost like a mall. It's like open in the center, and around the edges there's like stores and different places that you can walk in, restaurants and stuff. And up at the top floors though, there were like lodging. So this is where I stayed up there. And but like there's restaurants in the place. So like I ordered and they'd like bring stuff up to you if you and I ordered I went I tried to order the most American thing I could, like an idiot, like a fool. Again, no one told me this stuff. And like so like I'm like, oh, they have like a house salad. Why would I do that? Like let me just why wouldn't I just order Indian food? So like I ordered this house salad and they probably had never had a request to make this house salad ever before because it was disgusting. It was so bad. The dressing looked like a gray chunky applesauce. It was all bad. It was just really disgusting and gross. But I tried to eat it. I tried to eat it. And I got like 3 bites in, like I literally cannot eat this. Like I see myself getting nauseous. So I didn't eat it. put it out, woke up the next morning, was fine, didn't really feel anything. And then I got to the office, like the driver picked me up, brought me to the office. And like I've used the bathroom like maybe like 3 times, whatever. I don't think anyone's like, I don't think anything of it. I don't think anything of it. I'm just like, yeah. And like, Vivek, the office manager kind of comes over to me like, you okay? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I've seen you use the bathroom a couple times. I'm like, yeah, normal. Like I'm good. He's like, I'm gonna take you back. And I was like, what? No, I'm fine. Like there's a bathroom right there. Like I can work the rest of the day. He's like, now let's go. And like he knew. And I was like, all right, day off, cool. Like and it's like he brought me back. And like, yeah, sure enough, within like the hour after I got back, I was the sickest I had ever been. And I guess he'd seen it before, you know, and he knew what it looked like, the beginning stages of it. And yeah, it was real bad. I felt like I was getting stabbed. I'll never forget. I felt like I was getting stabbed in the solar plexus. And I was like, I was talking like this, like I couldn't get any words out. So I was like calling my family, like, listen, I'm so sorry, but I'm very sick and I don't know what's gonna happen. You know, like, it was really bad. Like you know, just coming out of every and I'll tell you this too, which is also kind of interesting that I haven't mentioned a lot, is that like um before I left, my great grandmother was really worried. I mean, I was going to India, and she's like an old school Jamaican, so like, I didn't think much of it. I was like, all right, man, I'm going to go. But like, it started to kind of get to me. But there was a point where like, up in like the week up until I went, I started to get this feeling like, almost like this feeling of dread, like I might die, and I couldn't explain it. And again, this is pre-spiritual work and all that stuff, but like. And I kept thinking like, am I gonna die? And I kept being like, no, you're letting your grandmother get to you. Like, just relax. And I remember being on the plane and like I think it was my right hand went numb. And I was like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. Oh no. You know, I was like scared. I was like, uh, attendant. You know, like I was genuinely scared. Like, is there a doctor on the plane? And they're like, no. So we'll see what happened, basically. And I was like, okay. You know, and it was but then it was fine, everything got there, but then that happened. So when that happened, I was like, oh, here it is, I'm dying, you know. So like it was, yeah, but like I think back now and I'm like, I think I did die though, you know. There's a part of me that died, that needed to, I'm sure. But yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned Jakar, because we've recently had like a SRT session, and she picked up on this lifetime that I had in India, because we're like it felt like in the height of my illness, it was radiating from this very specific spot in my lower stomach, left side. And she found this specific spot, lower stomach, left side, where apparently in a past life I had been poisoned incidentally during a ritual. And this is exactly where it was radiating from. So like also there's a layer of this having to do with like past life stuff, literally in India. as like a king in India. So I just learned that recently, so I figured I mentioned it. But yeah, so that's what that's what happened with that. Yeah, it was a whole mess, and I was sick for 2.5 years, full on. No, I went to about 6 different doctors, including an infectious disease specialist. No one could figure it out, and the despair that I fell into once I got that diagnosis or prognosis or whatever was so incredibly dark and deep. You know, I don't even really remember those days, those weeks before I snapped into obsessively trying to heal myself. And really what it was, ironically, that I discovered afterwards was it was like a mixture of Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine that really was the thing that turned everything around for me. So yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is so interesting because, yeah, I'm actually glad you shared because I'm like, okay, I know this is an interesting story, but it really helps to understand because you also said your grandmother was like, don't go on this trip. And then you were already feeling, and this is way before your spiritual journey in quotes even started. And then you're connecting it back to this whole thing about shamanism, which I wasn't really clear, but it's almost like you have to go through like deaths in quotes to actually like even step into that process. So that's kind of what you were doing, knowing unconsciously that's kind of what's happening. And now we're wrapping this other layer of like past life is
Yeah.
connected. I was like, oh my goodness. And for everybody that's tuning in, Jakara that we talked about and SRT, there's an episode with her. So if you want to learn more about that specific thing that she does, please go check out that episode. But kind of coming back, so I did not know this piece about before you step into a shamanic journey, or if you're feeling called to do that, there is this process of almost kind of like going through a death. And you pretty much, that's what you went through, right?
Right, right. This apparently, because when I actually did stop and research about it, it's quite common that people kind of, in a sense, chosen to be a shaman or shamanic practitioners go through some sort of pretty intense initiation. You'll read a lot about how people were struck by lightning, or it like had some grave injury or some grave illness and had to solve it for themselves. And it's through that process of solving it for themselves that they really start to walk on the path. And yeah, I don't refer to myself as a shaman. That's one thing that I don't do. I have a thing, and I know that there's a lot of people that disagree with me when I say this, but like I kind of have this thing that like I don't know, like I just feel strange about calling myself a shaman. Like giving myself that title. I rather call myself a shamanic practitioner. You know, like I do shamanic things, but I think it's a title that's kind of handed to you incidentally by kind of like spirit rather than something that you just deem yourself. Um, but I mean, if I kind of review my life, I mean, there have been some shamanic aspects and some like really, because for me that I was very close. I was very near death, and I knew I could feel it. I've never had that feeling since, or nor before, of the fact that I'm dying, and I'm not going to last long. You know, so but I'm here. You know, uh,
What a
9 years later, whatever.
that's like a, I mean, that is like a literally a life-changing event when you're literally straddling life and death, and you were able to get into a space where you're like, no, I'm gonna live. So what do I
Yeah,
need to do for myself? And then you went through this whole other path of like, now I gotta investigate and literally kind of go to like plants and herbs, like all the things from the earth, right? Like what's gonna help me,
absolutely.
because traditional medicine is not able to understand at all.
They
And
failed me. Yeah.
yeah. So how did you even start? Did you talk to someone? Did you just start looking online? Like, how did you even know, okay, I gotta like do Ayurveda, or I gotta do Chinese herbs or Chinese medicine? Like, how did you even step into all of that?
Google. It's literally just Google. You know, like because I was so desperate just to find information, and like lost so much faith in the Western medicinal system. Like like at that point, like I was so like you've not only not been able to help me, but like I know that if I would have stayed with you all, that you would have just killed me. So like I was at a point where I was like, I need to find the answers myself, and literally Google. I was like how, you know, just all the things. How can I heal myself, or how do I deal with this specific symptom? Like I was like symptom by symptom, illness by illness, and yeah, I was eventually led back to. I think I use the word naturally a lot because, you know, I was like, how am I humble? How can I do this without you know, over the counter meds or even prescribed meds? And what would come up were these natural remedies, having to do with the different herbs and roots and other plants. And I went through a process of just intense trial and error. It's not that I Googled and just found the answers, because not everything works for everybody. You know, I had to go through this intense, extensive process of trial and error, and which was a pain in and of itself, because like some things would kind of like aggravate things, something, you know. So, but yeah, this is how I found it. Just really searching the internet, and then as a result, kind of finding different books, different articles, different other materials that I could use just through the internet.
Wow, that's so amazing that you did so much of that by yourself. And so obviously you started to like trial and error and all of these things, basically like practicing on yourself and seeing what's going to work and finding your own kind of custom things that worked. at this point, you were still not technically, to your awareness, in your spiritual journey, even though you were.
Right.
But as you were sort of doing all this work and healing and kind of cleansing yourself, you, like you said, your gifts started to open up, right? And
Right.
so that's interesting. So I know we didn't touch on this. Did you have any experience, like, were you, it felt like you were just like a natural medium, like you said, you started to go into these circles, you're like, oh, I can do this, like
Yeah.
most of us are like, are you crazy? I'm like so scared, I don't want to do this. And funny enough, I came into your circle once, right? And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing over here. And and had a great experience as kind of a beginner. But did you, in your childhood, was there anything that you experienced or were you around? Because I know you said your grandmother was pretty spiritual. Was
Mhm.
anybody else in your family along those lines? Was it something that you experienced or were encouraged? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Never. So it's I find myself looking at some other people who have had that in their lives, in their early lives, and I'm like, man, I wish I had that. No one was an apparent psychic. Everyone was psychic. Like looking back now, I'm like, ah, you all had it. Like I get it from you all. But no one. It was never encouraged. It wasn't as if it was not encouraged, but like I had no concept of that kind of thing. I experienced things as a kid, yes. So again, having to look back and be like, oh, that's what that was. No, but like it was, I never had a person who encouraged diving into spiritual work or spirituality or any sort of spiritual practice. My grandmother, my great grandmother, I mean, she was very in tune and astute, but her medium for her spirituality was her religion. It was like church and prayer. And I just remember some of the things that she would tell me that and how she would experience things. And looking back, I was like, oh, she was just having visions. She was just seeing. She was being shown. Her guys are speaking to her. And so yeah, just to answer that question, no, I didn't have anybody. No one. It's funny. I know that I wasn't supposed to. Looking back, I can be all like, well, I wish I had them. But like, I know that I wasn't supposed to have anybody because I kind of have a feeling that I probably would have been deemed crazy. I would have, because even, I mean, back when I was very young, there was a time where they wanted to diagnose me with depression. And like taking you back there now, like because there's a point, right? Okay, so let's get some specific. So back in second grade, I cried every single day. Every single day in school, I would cry. There's a point where I'd cry, and I just remember saying words like, "Why won't anybody help me? Why won't anybody help me?" Like I'd repeat that over and over again, sobbing, crying in the middle of class. And so naturally, they're like, "Let's take this kid. Just like get this kid out of here. Like, look, what's wrong with him?" And like, they took me to like to talk to. I don't remember what it was. Some sort of like maybe the principal or something. And I remember them asking me like, "Are you just sad that your parents are split?" Because by this time, like my parents were never really together. Like age 2, 1, or whatever they split. Um, are you sad that your parents are not together? And as a child, I remember being like, yes, because I remember being like, I don't know how to articulate what I'm feeling and what I'm going through. So like the answer to your question is just yes, good. And let's situate that. And so I remember being brought to the like a psychiatrist, not even a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and had me do puzzles and things, ask me questions. And the diagnosis was they wanted to medicate me. They wanted to put me on medicine. And my mom was like, yes. But my dad was like, absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. And to this day, I'm so grateful for him because that would have changed the course of my life forever. But I say that because looking back, I've had opportunity to dive deep into that. And I was experiencing I was so sensitive as a kid. I saw it, kind of getting back around to your original question. I was always sensitive. I was always sensitive to subtle energies. And as a child, as my awareness began to grow, rather my consciousness began to grow, as I began to like wake up and realize like, oh, I'm on Earth now. You like lose that like sparkle in your eye when you're like a newborn, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm awake now. I'm a human. Okay. And when I hit my point very early. I must have been like 5 years old. You can see it in my pictures. Like I kind of like lose that sparkle. And I realized that I was experiencing the pain of the entire earth. You know, it started as like, okay, like I see my grandmother's in pain. She has arthritis. She has diabetes. She has her pains, and the intense want to help her, my great grandmother. And then that would expand out into the neighborhood and feeling like, oh, there's pain everywhere. Everyone is in pain. And expanding that past into the state, into the country, into the world. And it was so overwhelming that I didn't have enough tears to cry to express how much pain I felt for everybody. And so yeah, I was always very sensitive. Also, I mean, I saw things. They're definitely. I can tell you a couple stories about things that I saw as a child too, and which would have like began the process of shutting my gifts off. And then kind of getting older, it was truthfully alcohol. Alcohol was the thing that I was using unconsciously that I didn't know. I was really trained by my parents, who I'm sure were shutting their gifts off, but trained to kind of use alcohol to numb myself and block the gifts off entirely. And so, ironically, when I got sick and was like, I'm not drinking alcohol anymore, this is one of the things that allowed the gifts to rush right back in because there was no more numbing happening. But yeah, again, just to kind of circle back around to your question, yeah, I'd always been sensitive. I'd always been seeing things and feeling things. There were always times where people would ask me questions, even as a child, and I would kind of almost like not blackout, but like I was like I wasn't there, and then for a moment, and then like words just come out of my mouth, and by the time I came to, people were like either like pale or like it's teary eyed or like I'm like what did I say? You know, what I, you know, like and there's so many times I can think of where I just knew things and like I remember like just the expressions of like my parents or my dad like how could you know that? And I'm like I don't know. You know, like as a little kid, like it's like you know, so like I'd always been that way. Yeah, it was just more of a rather it wasn't. So I guess it's better to say that it wasn't that getting sick turned my gifts on, but rather allowed them to resurface from inside.
Yes, that's kind of what I wanted to get to. I'm like, there's something deeper in this story. It wasn't just from that event. There were other things going on. Yes, thank you so much for sharing because that's huge. And I have heard from a lot of people who've come and, shared on the podcast that, a lot of them were very sensitive, even as kids, and they didn't have a space to be able to share. And so it ends up getting shut down and suppressed. And, even for like when you were saying it, like you were seeing things, and I was like, oh, Maurice, was it like dead people? Were you already starting to see galactics and stuff too? Or, because you never know what someone is seeing, right? But you're like, okay, I just got to shut this down because number one, it's you can't talk to anybody clearly because anytime you try to express yourself, it's just not something that people were open to. So it's like you had to find your own channel to kind of just numb it out, right? Just shut it
Right.
off. And so, yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely prepared me for this work. I'm just like thinking back on it. Um, there was there's a particular moment. Again, 5 was like a pivotal age for me. I really think so. Like, but back when I was 5, I remember I had a lofted bed, like a small lofted bed. There's what I'm talking about, it's like a bunk, but only the top bunk, no bottom. And I would sleep with my face towards the wall, and across, like on the other side, parallel to the bed, was like one of those closets that like you open the doors and they like folds inward or outward. I guess that you pull. What I'm talking about, like those kind of doors. I should know the name of those types of doors. I don't. But the closet was open, and my face was turned towards the wall, and like it was like I don't know what time it was because I wasn't using clocks and stuff back then, but it must have been like early, like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, something. I remember just waking up, and I turn over, and there's this girl just sitting cross-legged on the floor, like in front or to the side of the bed, and she like looks up, and the most distinguishing thing, two things, was that like she was wearing this kind of colorful garb. It was like a almost like a wrapping around the body and a wrapping around the head. It was, and I could see the colors very clearly, like there's oranges, yellows, reds, blacks, green, with this pattern on it. But that was the first distinguishing thing. The second thing was the fact that she had no facial features, nor any skin tone or anything. It was just a solid black silhouette. I was like, but I can see the clothes. Why can't I see the face? So I'm like, and I just turn over. I turn back over because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't even have a concept of like the word ghost or anything at this point. I'm just like, I don't know what's happening right now. So I turn over. I'm like, okay, okay. So like I have to look again. So I turn slowly back over, and she's just standing in my face, like face to face with me, like completely still. And I'm like, so I turn back over, and I'm like, so eventually because like I have to look. I turn back over, and the girl is gone, but there's this figure that takes up the entire size of my closet. It looks like it doesn't have any clothes. Again, it's like no characteristics. It's completely black solid, and it's like real like buff, like huge looking, and the most distinguishing thing about the way that this thing looked, it looked masculine, I guess, was that the top of the head wasn't rounded. It looked like there were like three prongs at the top, like three spikes. And at this point, I'm like, ah, like I just yell because I'm like, and it does one of these, like one of the puts his hands out like with the palm up, and then like slowly curls the fingers inwards as if to say come. And yeah, I was having none of it, so I'm screaming, and screaming, and then like I hear footsteps, and I'm like screaming so hard that my eyes are closed. Then I hear footsteps coming from down the hallway, and I'm like, no, because like I open my eyes, and now he's standing in the doorway, like to like open, the door to come into the room, and the door's open. I'm like, no, like then they're coming down, and my mother walks in the room and walks through this being, and just like dissipates, turns on the light, and she's just, rather than asking me what's wrong, she just goes off on me. Like she goes off. Like she's so mad. And I'm trying to like, no, but I saw, and she's just kind of digging into me. And I realized, many years later, how traumatic this was for me, because I was seeing something. I know I saw something, and I wasn't asleep. I was experiencing something. And when I tried to express that thing to my parent, I was shut down so hard and showed so much rage, just pure utter rage, without even being heard at all, that this became the point where like what's interesting about this moment was marked the period before and after I started to need glasses. I'm not wearing glasses now only because of the glare. I have very actually poor eyesight, but this was the moment that I started to need glasses. So it was as if that like I subconsciously blinded myself, like I didn't want to see. And yeah, within the next few months was when I got my first pair of glasses, because my vision started to blur. And yeah, so that took some going back and returning to and healing
Wow.
to solve for. Mhm.
Oh my goodness, Maurice. Yeah, I mean, that's again, I'm loving that we're digging into some of these things. And I hope that it's not traumatic for you now. I feel like you've worked through some of these things, because I always want to be very careful to not
Oh
have
yeah.
anyone relive any trauma. So,
No. I'm good to talk about all this stuff now. Definitely, it's
wow.
good to talk about it.
Yeah, that is really powerful because, for a lot of people, I would ask the question, I'm like, well, was it in your mind's eye? You're like, no, you're like, this was like physical, like this was in my space. I saw it. So
Yeah.
I can just imagine that your mom, the way that she reacted, I mean, talk about like shutting you down. I mean, that's done. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like pretty much locked up. It's done. And I love that you're sharing that that's kind of when you needed to wear eyeglasses. Like it makes so much sense because, this is something that I was exploring very recently and saying,
Mm.
any, I mean, everything to me is connected to our physical body, right? Like everything that's happening, right? And so once you dig deeper, you kind of understand. And so for me, part of it was also like, what did I not want to see? Because I
Mm.
remember having my glasses when I was like, I think I was probably like 8 or 9, so pretty
Mhm.
young.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was looking at is like, well, I've been doing all of this healing work and all this stuff is happening. I wonder if it's going to like shift my eyesight. Is it going to improve? Is there a point where I won't need it anymore? You know what I mean? So, kind of just dabbling in that conversation because I believe that that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. I've often thought about that. Like once I figured that out, that was kind of the trigger for that. I was like, well, can it go in the opposite direction then? Yeah. So I
Uh,
haven't ever really put any active energy into that, but that's something that I've definitely been brewing in the back of my mind for some time.
Wow. Well, I thank you so much for sharing. And I love to get kind of like a bigger picture. That's why I always kind of go to people's childhood because I feel like that is something that really creates and shifts so much in our life, right? Depending on our experience then, and especially for people who are super sensitive. It's kind of confirming again that, like, we shut our gifts down because
Yeah.
we're like, it's not safe. And I can't be myself. Something is wrong here. So I'm just going to suppress it. And then all these other things happen. So, kind of jumping back to when you were doing your journey of this intense, like physical self healing through your food and just cleaning up your diet and just getting rid of chemicals and all of these things. And clearly, you could see your body was responding, you're feeling better, you're healing. If I'm not mistaken, you have a part of your repertoire to do with like creating really healthy food or products. Am I making that up or is this true?
Hmm. This is true. This is true. Yeah. Because I've since because I mean, I was already a cook. I've been cooking my whole life. So I think that something I'm sure was orchestrated by my higher self, over the course of the years. But like that saved my life because like if I didn't have that skill, I don't know what I would have. I would just wasted away. I would just so like being able to cook for myself changed everything because now I was able to incorporate like different um, not just medicinal foods and herbs, but also incorporate the knowledge of what those foods, the condition that each one of those foods create in the body does. And so yeah, I mean, I'm going on the whole thing. Yes, I do. I do create uh, different foods that can be aimed at different ailments and to mitigate different effects and things, and which is just kind of incidentally picked up from my own healing journey.
I love that. No, I definitely want to have you share a little bit more about that. So, is this something where you're customizing? If, like, just I'm assuming that it's not like a full-on business necessarily. It seems like it kind of like just kind of expanding. Is it more like friends and family who are coming to you and saying, "Hey, I got all these issues," and you're like, "Hey, listen, I can help you. I can like help create products," or do you create products and then share with people that, "Hey, I've created these." I'm just going to say, like, there are these amazing cookies that are like super clean, plant-based. They've got these great ingredients. Like, it's a great alternative. Share with me because I'd love to learn and I'd love to share with others what you're doing in that space.
Yeah. So I've just created a new business. I guess I'll just say the name of the business is with a business partner called Bacon Buds, BAKKIN without a G. And for now, we're just offering products that I've created that offer you like a healthier alternative. Because for me, it's not just about healthy alternatives. I am obsessed with taste and texture. So I make all vegan, all organic uh, cookies and even brownies and things. It's real small now, so we're mostly cookies and brownies. And rather than using refined sugars and a bunch of other chemicals that are unnecessary, I keep the ingredients real simple. Because one of the issues with food is not just the additives and the chemicals, which is, of course, an issue, but the amount of ingredients in each thing, which our bodies and our livers have trouble processing. That's kind of where it is now. I have and I do kind of offer a more personal thing for like family and friends where it's more personalized. That's not something that I haven't spent much time creating like a business around that. I mean, you say that now, and I'm kind of like, oh, maybe I should, but I haven't. I haven't. But so for now, I like to offer things that taste good, but also are good for you. So, for example, just an example of that, like A typical chocolate chip cookie, even just chocolate chip cookie, like you go to the grocery store, read the ingredients, and you're gonna find some ingredients. You're like, why is that in there? And you know what I mean? But I'm able to create these r- excellent cookies without the need for any animal products. They don't taste vegan, quote unquote. You know, they don't have that like vegan type taste or texture. Um, but also the ingredients. I can tell you the ingredients. For example, it'd be um, organic flour, organic maple syrup for the sweetener, baking powder, Himalayan salt, and a little bit of organic cinnamon, and organic vegan chocolate. You, you know what I mean? It's like it doesn't have to be complicated. When you know the amounts of every ingredient that you need to create a good effect, simple is better. Simple is just better. So yeah, I've spent years now owning that skill because it kind of was born from me. Like, okay, well, I can't really eat anywhere now. I can't buy these products from the stores anymore. So how am I gonna solve for myself? So yeah, I've been baking in this way for I think about 8 years now. So I have a lot of practice. Yeah. So that's the official business for right now is baking buns.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing. And I wanted to ask because I've seen things on Instagram. I know it's under a different account, but I was very intrigued because that's something that's of deep interest to me. I used to
Hmm.
own a small food business a few years ago, and it was all
Mm,
like vegan, gluten free, like no salt, no sugar, but just like so delicious, so healthy. And I knew that it was making an impact in terms of our customers, and that things can taste really good and
yeah,
be really simple. And I love that you're doing that. And again, it came out of it, birthed out of kind of like your pain to
yeah.
create. Once you kind of did your own kind of healing, you're like, okay, well, I have these other tools now that I can also share. So, even if it's not something that turns into some like full blown practice, it's like something that you really enjoy and you're passionate about. So, that's another thing that I love is that even though you didn't mention it in your bio, I'm like, well, I'm going to ask him because I do think that it's really beautiful and important because, as we are going through our healing journeys, there is something about that really strong connection, right? Between like what we eat, how we think, like it's all kind of together. It all kinds of works together. And there are a lot of us who do believe that just a personal choice is like I prefer plant-based. And I loved a lot of other things before, and I still don't deprive myself of anything if I really want something, but I'm
Hmm.
very careful of ingredients. Like I will read every label. And like you, even though I didn't have to go through something like you did, there is this feeling of I have access to these beautiful ingredients. Like I can start to make my own things. Like right now, like I do love dessert, but I don't want to go buy some of these things as I read the ingredients. And like I'm making my own stuff with like simple ingredients and it's so delicious. So I love that we talked about this because I think there's this element of like, there's so much more available. And
Hmm.
if you're interested in that aspect of I also want to take care of my physical body in a different way than I have before. There's so many things available. And like I said, I know you might be more friends and family, but anyone listening to this, if this is of interest to you, please check out what Maurice is offering. You never know. You could try some of his cookies or just be inspired by like what he's doing and maybe think to do something on your own. Maybe look up some recipes to make some healthier versions, even if it's just one thing, right? Like sometimes it's just one change, one little step. And I think it's really important. So, and I know that's such a big part of your journey. So it makes a lot of sense that you are also doing some of that. And it's not just something that you do in your own kitchen. You're like, yeah, let's share this resource with others. So I love that you shared that. And we'll make sure to link that as well, that other account that you have that.
Yeah, it's funny because like you mentioned my other well, first of all, I mean you're right. You say that, and it's probably about time that I start to also mention the cooking when you talk about like my about because it's all tied in. It's all it's all the same. It just through a different lens. It's been I've gotten so used to separating the two that it's like I'm like, oh, I'm talking about spirituality today, so let's not talk about food. But yeah, because okay, so like there's another important aspect to my healing journey, actually, and like I'd be kind of lying or omitting if I didn't talk about it. There was the traditional Chinese medicine, there was the Ayurveda, but there's also the cannabis. So when it came to healing my intern, like, so I had to first solve for the all of the imbalances that were created, not just that, and the lack of good bacteria in my body, which had been destroyed over the course of rounds and rounds of antibiotics, because that's how you deal with things in Western medicine. You just throw stuff in there and hope for the best. You throw atom bombs in, and then you kind of kill everything, and then you just hope for the best, which not a viable solution. Again, no one told me that. I had to figure that out myself. But what that did was destroy my microflora system in my body. It like destroyed my gut, and that allowed for a lot of the kind of bad things to overgrow, bad bacteria, fungi, yeast, and things to overgrow. So I had to go through the process of balancing that, like kind of like mitigating that, but kind of killing a lot of that off while replenishing it with the good things. But what I realized, because over the course of 2.5 years, it the bad bacteria and the bad stuff had destroyed my physical digestive system. They had like put holes in it. You know, they had like I had what they call leaky gut, because, and I knew this because I developed a bunch of food allergies and sensitivities, and so I now had to go through the process of sealing my gut. And there were some other steps, definitely, other products, L-glutamine, bone broth, and things like that, that I had to kind of lean into. But to this day, I credit the use of cannabis infused oil to like really helping me to seal off the gut and heal the gut from the inside. And um, so I began just making oil for myself and putting it in capsules, because I was like, I need to get it as far down into my digestive system as I can. And but I was also noticing like, oh, there's kind of a nice effect as well. Like I think I kind of like how I feel too. Because, and this is important, because it wasn't just about like feeling high, whatever. It was also because I was in such a state of lowness and depression during that process. It was something that actually truly helped me to like process the emotions that I was going through without like losing myself in the darkness. Because it wasn't just like, oh, I know how to heal myself, so I'm just happy now. No, through the process, it's painful, it's tough, it's lonely. No one can help me. It's just me and me. And so it was also something that helped me in a very like a mental and emotional level back then anyway. And so over the course of time, you know, like I get to a point where I'm like healing myself, and I feel really good. I think to myself, well, I'm a cook, and this is just oil. So can't I just put it in other things? Like it just kind of dawned on me. Like, you know, I had never thought about like edibles or anything like that. And so I started to just make things, just like play around in the kitchen. And I realized like, oh, it does work. That's kind of cool. Like I could just make normal stuff that, and so I don't, it doesn't have to be capsules. And you know, just to be honest, like I started to give it to some friends, like, hey, like, what do you think about that? And they're like, oh my God, like how, like, so you mean to tell me that it's helping us? And like this is them telling me, like, these are things, it's kind of like them playing the mirror for me and being, and at first me being like, nah, like what? They're like, no, you have something, like you need to do that. And then that turned into like long story. It was my little brother, actually. I got him a job at this insurance company I was working at the time. And like I like gave him some capsules, like, here, just take that. And like he came back to me like, listen, these are amazing. Like I don't know what you're doing, but you need to be doing something with this. You need to expand. And I like, I think it was him saying that, because he's not the type to even like really be like really encouraging like that. I was like, okay, like something resonated to me, and I created. At the time, I intended to create a brand called Sinclair Medibles, and this is the other page that you're probably talking about. And um, and my goal was to get to a point where I was like official and licensed and things. But I'm in Connecticut. They weren't legal at the time. It's a whole bunch of hurdles, and so it never really panned out, and it just kind of stayed to like friends and family. Um, But now it's just ironic because like I was doing that for years, just trying to like really get up off the ground, and that never really went anywhere. I just kind of really stayed local. And as I just kind of owned the craft and expanded and started to make more and more different things. But this is over the course of that time where I realized this is like that point of like fusing things that really tasted and even looked aesthetically pleasing with this medicinal aspect. Because to me, it wasn't about, hey, you're going to get high. It's like, no, you can use this food, enjoy it as an experience, while also helping you to deal with maybe your depression or maybe your anxiety. I can customize it for you, so in a way that you can use it in a way that you need it. I had people like, most of the people that would come to me had some sort of major issue, whether it was mental or had gotten into some sort of accident or they had broken a bone or like, so like for me, it was eccentric to helping the people, because I was like, this helped me in such a way that I think I need to give this to other people. But so yeah, that was that anyway. So but now, like just recently, I parlayed into the baking buds thing, because it's like, okay, while we're getting the licensings and things sorted out, why not share just the food? It doesn't have to be medicated. Like it's still medicinal. I can still include other herbs that don't have any psychotropic effects or anything into the food. So that's what we're doing now, and that's what we've kind of been in the process of expanding on. And yeah, there will be a return to either Sinclair Medibles or a Sinclair Medibles like company in the near future, while we kind of now have these talks with the licensed cannabis producers in the area and stuff. So yeah, but I thought I'd mention that because like I wouldn't be fully authentic if I didn't explain that part of my journey, because it was an essential part of healing myself. It's ironic now. I don't really use cannabis anymore. It's you get to a point where we're just talking about everything. This is cool. Like I got to a point where it served its purpose for a while. It like even like mentally, like beyond just the physical, like it served its purpose for me for a while. It did help me a lot on my spiritual journey as well. But I've gotten to a point now where I am kind of vibrating past the vibration that cannabis can take me to. So really doing it now really just lowers me. Doesn't matter the type or the strain or the amount that I do it. Like where I'm at now, it only lowers me. And there's that aspect, because there's still times where I'm like, I could use a smoke. Like it's not that I'm like, get it away from me. Like sometimes I'm like, I would like to smoke, but like I'm intentionally not doing it because I feel like I can expand so much quicker. Because we talked about or I think this is off camera actually, but we talked about like the emotional wave, and how in order to fully and wholeheartedly and swiftly manifest things into your 3D life and to bring you closer in vibration to what you're wanting out of life, you have to experience your full emotional wave, the entire emotional wave to the fullest, no matter how long it lasts. You have to. This is a part of it. When you drink, smoke, whatever, when you numb that in any way, you slow this process immensely. And it doesn't. And I was noticing this. Like I'd be on a roll, like things are just happening, rolling, boom, boom, boom. You know what? I'm gonna have a joint because I feel good. Screeching halt. And like it took me a while to like really not just figure it out, but like admit to myself that this is what was happening. That I was, no matter what it looked like, I was stopping the emotional train and slowing it down. And like instead of the wave being a full wave, it's kind of like like a very small wave, and which is like much less powerful, carries much less potency. And yeah, so this has been my journey, and I'm at a point now where I'm actively not using. I'm glad to help other people, but for myself, it's just not something that's serving me. So yeah, taking you through the entire the entire journey from like back then until right now, and honestly, I feel amazing. Like the emotional waves are stronger and more difficult, and they feel like harder to like kind of like sit through and allow to happen, but the end results are so much better. So this is not some PSA, don't smoke, kids. Like this is not some PSA, because like I wholeheartedly believe that it is absolutely very helpful and can be extremely medicinal to people depending on where you are. But for me right now, just for anyone listening who might be like me and noticing something similar, um, it might benefit you just to at least take a break, to stop and just to see, because it began with me just as a break, and now I'm like, I don't think this is ever going to become a permanent fixture in my life again. It's not that I don't think I'm ever going to do it again. It's more like it's never going to be a permanent fixture. It's never going to be something that I feel like I need every day, nor necessarily every week, ever. I don't feel that anymore. Yeah. So I'll say about that.
Oh my God, I love it so much, Maurice. See, this is why I love the way that the format of this podcast goes, because we never know where we're going to go, what we're going to talk about. And so, we're basically getting all these different pieces of your story that are all like fitting in perfectly with our conversation. So I love that we were able to talk about this because it's an important part of your journey. And I
Yeah.
love that you shared about that. And, in some sense, when you were kind of sharing about the cannabis, it's almost sort of like, you know, we all encounter and experience things at different times of our life. And at that time, that's what we needed. But there is also a place of reevaluating and saying, well, do I still need it? Does this still
Yeah.
serve a purpose? And for you at the moment, it doesn't in the way that it did. And so I think that's really the message to me is just because you've done something for so many years, great, but it doesn't hurt to just always stop and think like, do I still need that? Like, what's next? Where am I heading now? And what feels right now? And it's not like you're saying, oh, I'm never going to do that again. You're just like, it's just not something that I need at the frequency that I did at that time. And I'm like moving into a different place. Yet you have all the understanding and the knowledge and the wisdom that you can offer and share that with others that might be in a different part of their journey. So I love that very much. And I think, again, you just are confirming about how, we kind of go from our like pain to purpose journeys. It's like when you think about it, it's like all these different things that we've encountered like all end up being like tools and resources in this like big bag that we have that we can like reach out to and be like, what do I want to pull out today? What do I need tomorrow? So I do love that piece. And, of course, it's quite a journey. And like you said, there's a lot of pain, that's a lot of loneliness, there's a lot of rejection. I mean, every word that you could think of, like, a lot of us have gone through it. But sitting where we are right now today, to be able to look back and to say, wow, yeah, there's been some real rough stuff. However, every single one of those things showcase for us an opportunity to receive gifts or knowledge or information that now not just are healing us, but can offer healing to others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all a part of the puzzle, all necessary, all aspects. It's easy to kind of look back with bitterness and, and resentment. But when you really look at it, every little thing that happened and every little piece that was picked up, everything that was learned along the way is purposeful, if even just to pass it on to somebody else who might be at a similar place, who might need that information now. So it's funny because you probably experience this too, but like in client work, you realize that like so many of the people that come to you that feel drawn to you are in the middle of experiencing something that you've already experienced. Either it could be from way back, or it could be something from last week, and you're like, I was just dealing with this. Okay, so I actually know what to do now. So, so yeah, it's all purposeful, definitely.
Yeah, and I love what you're sharing because one of the things that's, coming into my awareness is kind of like we know this, but there's absolutely no coincidence the clients that you attract because it is literally like you are the person that will be able to assist and help them and they will find you. The universe will guide them to you. So I love how that happens. And I just think it's incredible and what a journey you've been on. And I know there's so much more to come, but I'm excited to learn about all these different pieces that you are putting out there in the universe. And I also wanted to make sure to mention before we kind of move into kind of the ending part of our podcast is that you host these incredible like mediumship circle. If you wanted to share anything about that before we kind of transition into the next piece, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. So yes. So one thing that I become pretty passionate about is helping other people step into their mediumship gifts. And so every week for now, the schedule kind of changes, but for now, on Mondays nope, sorry, it is Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern time and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I host a Zoom mediumship circle where people can come and practice their gifts. And I always emphasize that because this is something I run into a lot. People think that you need to be seasoned or practice. You don't even have needed to have heard about mediumship ever before. If you feel at all drawn to join a mediumship circle to practice or learn how to do mediumship for the first time, it's a great place to jump in, because it's not just you being thrown into the water. I do act as the mediator and kind of like the master of ceremonies, for lack of whatever, and I can help guide you to meet a person's spirit. That's one of my skills, is I can help you connect with somebody, and also help you through the process and how to communicate with them back and forth. Yes, and I do this, every week, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. I've seen some amazing transformations. People were coming, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't think I can do this. I'm a medium, like by the end of the by the end of the night. So yeah, I'd be happy to have anyone who's listening to this in my mediumship circle if this interests you at all. And just to be upfront, the cost per session is $11, just $11, and there's no obligation, because I know some people for these types of things, they're like, they kind of make you sign up for 10 or something like that. You can literally come whenever you want to, or never. So I like to keep it open and free like that. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely reach out to me.
I love that so much, Maurice. I had an opportunity to go to one, and I was also very nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, what is this going to be like? And I really enjoyed the experience, and, felt really safe, felt really comfortable. And, I had an opportunity to kind of like get into that space of being able to do a little myself, which was really kind of fun. And so I would just say to everybody, like, don't feel nervous. You're in really good hands with Maurice and the people that come in, and, just give it a try. If it seems like it's something that's calling to you, like you said, no experiences needed. Just come and have fun. I mean, if it was just one time, so what? Come check it out. So I would highly encourage people who are tuning in to definitely join in. And so we're coming to that place now, Maurice, where I love to invite my guests, if they want to pull some cards, they want to channel a message, like whatever brings you joy to share for the collective that's tuning in, let me know.
Okay. So I suppose I'll channel a message. I don't know what's going to happen, because I'm just going to tune in and see. Just to be clear, I never know what's going to happen in anything that I do. I'm just the middle person. I'm just the channel. So let's see what whoever wants to say to everybody. This is interesting. Okay, so I'll preface this by saying that everything has a spirit. Everything has its own consciousness. Even the things that we think are inanimate or don't have life necessarily. I've never met this being before. I laugh because I was like, you exist? So in shamanism, especially, I'll just preface this all by saying this. I would refer to like the overarching spirit of fill in the blank, whether it's overarching spirit of eagle or the wind or just anything else. I would say the great spirit of blank. So I believe who I have here is the great spirit of chocolate. So I never met this being, never even considered this being to be existent. Chocolate says that it is important to lean into your own decadence and your own pleasure and your own joy. The sweetness that exists in your own life. And there is always some. Even if it's sometimes bitter. It's making chocolate puns, I think. Your number one mission here is to live your life as a human while both seeking out and recognizing the available joy. As you follow this path, as you put forth effort into doing this, you'll find that what it is that you're wanting most and what it is that will help you and support you in bringing in more joy into your life will reach you much more readily and much more easily. You are not only safe, but expected to lean into your joy and what makes you happy. There's no need to feel guilty nor wrong for doing the things that light you up from the inside. I'm going to, the talk's not saying this, but I'm going to add, as long as those things aren't hurting people. As long as you're not hurting anybody. Because I feel like this is implied, but this being didn't say that. It literally looks like a it looks like a segmented chocolate bar, like a massive segmented chocolate bar. It's like it's this tall as me, no wrapper, just it's a chocolate bar, and it's sentient. It moves. Do you want to say anything else? There will be times where your joy calls out to you from the inside. Just know that every time that you ignore those impulses, you move further and further away from all it is that you're wanting. So I'll translate this as if to say that, for example, you might be craving chocolate, just specifically, and you tell yourself no, no, because fill in the blank. You know, like in the crave, it's not as if you are like, you're eating chocolate every day. It's just, you just feel this strong impulse, like, like, let me just get myself a piece of chocolate, or like eat a little piece of chocolate. And you explain it away as if to say, no, 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 I don't need that. That's too much. Whatever it is. Each time that you do that, you take steps away from everything as a whole that it is that you're wanting, not just the chocolate, but whatever other goals that you're trying to achieve. So that to me implies that the more that you follow these impulses of joy, pure joy that isn't hurting anybody, the closer you get to all it is that you're wanting in life. And it's like, this is like a not a warning, but just kind of advice that this being is giving to everybody. Yeah, and I'll just kind of sum up the rest of what this being is saying by just like don't allow anybody to make you feel afraid nor guilty for smiling, for just being joyful for no apparent reason. Don't let anybody tell you that you have to have a reason, that there's something that you need to be doing or experiencing, or that you need to earn it in some way. Don't let anybody tell you that, because the truth is, joy is an aspect of your essential self, and the more you embody your essential self, the more you're vibrating everything that it is that you're wanting, period. And the more of a vibrational match you become for everything that you're wanting, period. Yeah. What an interesting being. You good? Yeah. So I'll leave everybody with chocolate's love.
Oh my God, I love that so much. That is so awesome. That's, yeah, I've never experienced that before. I'm like, what, chocolate? And we were talking about food. So I'm like, it's probably like lurking around, like waiting for an opportunity. We've been talking about edibles and
Oh,
foods and cookies.
that
And I was
makes so
like,
much sense.
okay, that would make sense. And I've been thinking about chocolate. I was like, oh, how interesting that this is coming in. But what a beautiful, beautiful message. And even though it's coming from chocolate, it really is like such a beautiful, like universal message, right? About chasing our joy and being in that place, and to not feel guilty, to enjoy. And like you said, of course, as long as it's not hurting anybody else. So I absolutely love this message. What a wonderful, to the pun intended, wrap up this session together.
That's good. That was good, especially because it didn't have a wrapper. Very good.
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
That's
I was
good.
like, ooh, I'm going to take that opportunity. But oh my goodness, this has been so much fun, Maurice. It's been so great to hear all these different pieces that all like came together to learn about your story and all these wonderful things that we've been able to share with everyone tuning in. I'm so grateful, and thank you again so much for joining me. And all of Maurice's information will be in the bio section everywhere that this gets posted. So thank you again, Maurice.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to. It's very I don't know, it's like almost medicinal and therapeutic to be able to talk like this. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate you too for even creating the space.
I love it. Thank you again. And thank you to everyone that's tuning in to listen to this episode. I hope that you receive some beautiful information and some insights, and we'll check out what Maurice is up to. But thank you again for tuning in. And I can't wait to catch you all on the next episode.